Hello, and welcome to Trade Talk Wisconsin. I'm Emily Pritzko, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Building Trades Council. We're recording this month during Women in Construction Week, and it felt exactly like the right moment to bring together two guests who, between them, represent something really powerful. The breadth of who builds Wisconsin and the work we're still doing to make sure everyone who wants to be a part of this industry has a real shot at it. Today, you'll hear from Kent Miller, President and Business Manager of the Wisconsin Labor's District Council, and also from Kilah Engelke, Business Manager of the Operative Plasterers and Cement Masons Local 599 and founder of EmpowHER. I'm really glad you're here for this one. Let's get started. First, as we recognize Women in Construction Week, I'm really excited to welcome Kilah Engelke to the podcast. Kilah began her apprenticeship as a cement mason with the Operative Plasterers and Cement Masons Local 599 in 2001, topping out in 2005. She advanced from a heavy and highway journey worker to apprenticeship and training coordinator, then business agent, and now the first woman business manager to serve on the board of the Wisconsin Building Trades Council. In addition to leading her union, Kilah serves as chairwoman of OPCMIA's International Women's Group, the Steel Edge Women of the OPCMIA, as well as a member of NABTU's Tradeswomen Committee. Not just a trailblazer in her own right, Kilah has dedicated her career to also lifting up women in the trades. She is the founder and president of EmpowHER, a 501c3 organization of women from building trades positions all over Wisconsin, including myself, whose mission includes promoting leadership for women in all facets of the trades, sustaining and retaining women in the industry, and organizing by being visible examples of successful women in the trades in local communities. But today's conversation isn't just about resumes or titles. We'll save more of that for later this year when we sit down with Kilah for a discussion around her background and her craft. Instead, we're focusing on what Women in Construction Week really means, where we're making progress, where gaps still exist, and how unions, contractors, and our allies can turn this moment into meaningful year-round action. Kilah, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. I'm really glad to have you here. I just touched a little bit on EmpowHER in your intro. Can you give us a little bit more information about EmpowHER, why it was founded, and the overarching goals of the organization?
Sure. So EmpowHER, we came together. I mean, obviously the idea was floating around before that, you know, not just in Wisconsin or Milwaukee, but kind of like nationwide. But definitely I was, elected business agent 2018, but in 2019, it kind of like the stars kind of aligned where there was a group of women that were like, alike in their minds, similar interests, and we'd had experiences before with like groups, for women or, designed for women that were just kind of like not effective or that interest kind of like went away. But we were able to get a bunch of us together that were really kind of like amped to have something that was our own and that was representing the women in the construction industry, whether it was like management or engineers or field workers, tradeswomen, but in around 2019, we kind of organized ourselves and came together with the goals of supporting other women in the trades and being examples of successful women in the industry, to be visible in the communities, and then also to promote leadership. So whatever leadership meant to you in your kind of like sector of the industry, we were there to help. So.
This year's Women in Construction Week theme is Level Up, Build Strong. What does that theme mean to you personally and for women in union construction right now?
Kind of the culmination of what EmpowHER is and means is that we, work together to build each other up, and we're kind of like all on the same playing field as far as like apprentices to journey workers to any type of like management folks, union leaders or whatever. We all come together, and whether it's bringing people up with us, whether it's reaching out to like iron out, any type of conversations that we should navigate, but we're all here for each other. So, like I said, from wherever perspective that we come, like we're all kind of like on the same level and fighting the same fight together. And building strong, I mean, literally that can mean building strong buildings, but it can also mean building strong relationships, which is kind of the core of, you know, what EmpowHER seeks to be and what we as like women in this industry, what it'll take for us to kind of like, you know, continue to be impactful and continue to be a part of the industry.
In your view, what is the bigger challenge getting women into construction? Is it the recruitment or the retention aspect of it?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it might be, you know, situational for different people or for different trades. I mean, I know for my trade in particular, like we're one of the more physical trades, and with, you know, concrete and that being a perishable material, you know, the job site and the expectations and the schedule is just a little bit different. You know, it's a physical trade, so people may or may not be interested, but there's more trades that are a little bit like more predictable and more manageable as far as schedules. But, you know, I feel like for some people there are barriers that are preventing you from even getting in, but maybe there's some, you know, where it's more of like once you've gotten along the way or you've gone a little bit down the road, you realize that there's, you know, a barrier here and there that relates to maybe the culture that might take you out. But all of these things are, you know, being worked on and are, you know, targeted specifically by our organizations and by our contractors and by, you know, groups like EmpowHER. So I don't know, there's, you know, there's definitely barriers that apply both to men and women though, you know. So that's a good thing to kind of remember, is that even when you're, you know, you feel like you're non-traditional, there's, you know, especially when we talk about family issues like childcare, like those are definitely more prominent for women, but they're family issues. But a lot of this, you know, a lot of the stuff with culture and with scheduling or whatever, that doesn't you know, that's not specific to women. So.
Let's talk a little bit about that cultural piece and challenges women
Sure.
in particular may, you know, come into contact with in the construction industry. Things like isolation, confidence, general workplace culture. How do programs like EmpowHER help women navigate those challenges?
I mean, one of our goals is to definitely be sure that we're not a spectacle anymore. And one of the ways that we go about making sure that people feel like seen and heard in those kind of challenges, cultural, maybe confidence, is we offer a place where you can connect with other people that were successful and maybe like share a story and get information on like how they navigated it, or advice on like how you think a conversation should be approached. But one of the things that we try to do is maintain like a positive, you know, outlook, and we don't try to kind of like hone in on, you know, rabbit holes where like darkness overrides the conversation and we like complain and continue to kind of like, I don't know, go off on tangents of like, you know, negativity. We try to remain positive and solution-minded in those conversations. And there's always like somebody that's experienced something similar before. So just being open to kind of like, you know, be vulnerable and share your story or share your issue or share your problem, but like with the intention of like, you know, getting an answer or helping yourself through something that somebody else has done before. I think that's an important part of like something that we've made as our, you know, one of the rules of the group, I guess, if you want to say, is we're always going to be positive and solution-minded. So any of these, you know, considerations, a lot of times we can figure out that, you know, one of the challenges might be from inside yourself. I know that that's something that I've struggled with, is like, I guess if you want to call it the imposter syndrome thing, you know, but seeing each other elevating and going into different situations and having confidence, like seeing somebody else be confident, I feel like gives you confidence too, and says like, you know, wow, I have somebody to look up to, or I have somebody to kind of like, that's led the way, or that's like broken the path, or, you know, all these different kind of like, you know, figurative thoughts that you have in your head, but you can see it in real life. And I think that's one of the cool things about our group, is that we don't, you know, we try to, like, our intention is to not be a spectacle, and our intention is to not be non-traditional at some point anymore. So we have, you know, we have that as our goal, and I feel like we keep that as like, you know, one of the most important kind of like values that we strive to like not impose on people, but make people feel. So
I think EmpowHER, and I'm also a member of the EmpowHER board with Kilah, and come at it from a different perspective because I've never worked in the field, obviously, but it does a really good job, you know, on that mission of normalizing us in the workplace, of not being toxic positivity, of like everything's great all the time. If there's an issue, let's talk about it. But let's be solutions based. Let's be solutions oriented with each other.
Yep.
Cultural change on the job sites, however, can be kind of slow. From your experience, what policies or job site practices make the biggest difference in whether women do feel respected and safe at work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, safety is, you know, probably our number one consideration. And like in the recent, you know, in our recent history, there's definitely been strides made as far as like, you know, PPE that fits. There's different companies, you know, that make whatever, vests, gloves, all the different apparel. They have sizes that fit women. So that's, you know, that's something that definitely I think people feel seen and respected by, you know, just like the accommodations. Like we know we have to wear a vest, but when you're given a vest that's, oh, what I have is a double XL and it hangs and it becomes a hazard and it, you know, it feels like unwelcoming, I would say. But to be, you know, given something that fits and that works for your body, you know, that's important. So I think that's definitely different from, you know, I can go back to when I started, like I said, almost 30 years ago, and people would wear cutoff jean shorts, and it was an option. We were on the highway, you know, like it was an option to wear, you know, some of the guys wore no shirt, but you could wear a vest if you wanted, or you didn't have to, and it was kind of like up to you. So that's obviously not even something that anybody sees anymore. So, you know, we've come that far in consideration, you know, as far as like full timelines, that's a short period of time in 30 years to not only like, you know, require different safety measures, but also have it make it fit everybody. And then also as far as just kind of like personally, there's a huge push towards emotional safety. So, you know, there's things that are, you know, programs and different kind of like attitudes about harassment and bullying and, you know, every trade or every company might have a policy that says, you know, like we don't accept this here. And more it's getting implemented as far as, you know, not just like a thing that we check the box and we think this is a good idea, but something that actually like fits into the value system of either the company or the union, the trade, the training department. But, you know, so definitely safety equipment, definitely like mental safety equipment is all, you know, a huge priority for the industry now, and that's great.
Well, as you covered, your trade in particular is very physically demanding, but like you said, in order to be good at that physically demanding work, which also is demanding on your brain as you're doing it, you need to be healthy both physically and mentally. And a big part of that is a healthy work environment.
Yeah, for sure.
If you see an environment, a work environment that is bad for a woman to be on, it's probably not a great work environment for the men anybody. There either.
Yeah, right.
I'm guessing there's some other stuff going on for them that's not super healthy.
Yep. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's the, you know, the beauty of us being able to have too, like more women or different, not just women, but just diverse populations within leadership too, is that you can kind of like take a different perspective and implement different ideas into like what you think a healthy job environment or work site is going to have to be. And I feel like, you know, definitely a huge 100% switch, 180 from when I started. So where, you know, if you made it through the bullying that was happening, you were like one of the crew, and that's just kind of like not how it, you know, that's not how it is anymore. So
I'm really glad we've seen that shift. As a woman leader in the union construction industry, and there's not many of you, what are the most common questions that you get from people that are curious about your experience?
Sure. I mean, definitely leader or not, I mean, the big question is, how did you get into this? Or how did you hear about this? Or how did you, you know, how did you come to be? And I, you know, really my answer is that I just took a job that I was going to make money to pay for school, I thought. And then I just got more and more involved with, honestly, like the union and understanding the labor movement and understanding organized labor and all of that, and just kind of like, you know, found my niche like that. But yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into when I came here.
Look at you now.
And yeah, look at me now. But I say this a lot too. But I had no idea my job, especially this job, was even a job when I was 18 and chasing a paving machine with my shovel, and I had no clue that the bigger kind of like all this background stuff was happening in order for me to get my great wages and my benefits, and so.
And has that, I don't want to get too far into this because
Yeah.
we will do a podcast episode with just
Sure.
you talking about it, but I'm guessing that's informed, like being able to come from the field through every step of the way.
Yeah.
Kind of how you operate as a leader of your union.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things that I focused on was, I started in my, I guess I'm going to say my job on staff with the union as the training director, like an instructor, and I had experience with that in prior kind of like parts of my life. So that was what I kind of, was drawn to, because I liked what I was doing in the field, and it was fun, and I had a good time working, and it was exciting, and even though it's hard, but it was exciting, and I was like, I want to be a teacher. So that's kind of where I started, and that's where, when I actually paid attention to, like I said, stuff about the labor movement and organized labor and what it means to be a union member, and how the system kind of like is built on solidarity and strength in numbers, and all the things that happened historically to bring us here. That's just kind of like that was kind of like a natural progression that I feel super lucky to be a part of, but all of it too is based on the fact that I had to be elected by members to be a business agent and stuff like that. So making my impact as a tradesperson is what got me the respect of like the people on the crew that kind of like allowed me to be here to represent them. So that's another critical part of it. I just, we always, as labor leaders, we always have to remember that like we work for the members, and it's it's a huge honor, and it's a huge kind of like responsibility too. So.
You segued perfectly into the next question, which
Okay.
is for women who are considering that leadership role you talked about when we first got started. Is it just the title or an elected position that matters when it comes to leadership for women in the trades, or are there other forms that influence can take that you've seen?
Yeah, no, I think that one of the things that you remember as a tradesperson in general, we just wrapped up our training season, and I did talk about this a little bit with our apprentices, and one of the things that you have to realize is that there are leaders that are silently leading by doing, and you see them, and that's regardless of like where they are, in the timeline of like how many years on the job or whatever. Some people are more interested to take on leadership like a foreman, or on the job site, or maybe move into some kind of supervisory role, and then there's also like the part that you can kind of like get into union leadership, but there's different skill sets that apply that you have to find yourself and learn these whole new skill sets. But I mean, anyone is a leader, whether you're just demonstrating a skill that's more proficient than another person, and maybe that's with communicating, maybe that's with going and being on podcasts, maybe that's like chasing a curb machine like I did, maybe that's who knows. All these different trades have different kind of like niches, and different kind of like obviously points in the industry, but definitely maybe it means being an EmpowHER and reaching out and talking about, diverse populations or non-traditional people. But no matter what it is, like no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you can be a leader, and then there's certain roles that you're asked to step up for. So we have lots of women that do things in the training departments, and then there's people that are maybe like stewards on jobs, and like I mentioned, foreman, sub-foreman, all these, all the different levels, and all the different, parts of our industry. There's a lot more that you might maybe not even see that exists, as you kind of like progress through, and the more you are there, the more you learn there is to still figure out. I feel like is kind of a cool part of the industry too. So
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years here. It's like you feel like you're learning so much, but then it's like dawning on you of how much more there is.
Right, it's a
to
constant
learn.
thing. Yeah, you could get even if it's just within your own, for me, within my own trade. Like the more I'm here, the more. I mean, things change, as you progress into the future too, with technology or whatever. So there's never like a moment when you don't have when you don't have the option to kind of like learn more.
From your perspective with EmpowHER, what progress have we made in increasing women's participation in construction, and where do you see more work that still needs to be done?
Yeah, so I mean, I know we kind of track like apprenticeship numbers, and I know our state in general has been great. We've like set records every year for the past I don't know how many years in the number of apprentices, but I know that we have moved the needle, and I don't, whatever if we take credit for it, but I know we've seen, women in apprenticeship go from about 3 to 4% statewide, which is great because it's hard to move those needles even a little bit. Obviously, we're talking still about 4%-ish. I mean, that leaves tons of room for growth. That leaves tons of jobs still open, to be filled in the future that hopefully women can see. But I feel like definitely the work we have to do is being more present, social media. I know there's lots of opportunities for us to, make a splash and make an impact like that because I don't think we do a ton of it yet. So there's definitely room for growth there. And then maybe even doing a little bit more work to help break down some of those other barriers, which are, childcare, which are, making sure people are aware of the benefits like maternity leave. Maybe, even though we have programs about harassing and bullying, like there's still times when things happen and stuff like that. So there's always, there's always more. There's always more that we can do, especially when we see that there's only, there's still a small kind of like percentage where, there's lots of room for growth. So.
And lots of opportunity.
Lots of opportunity.
You segued perfectly into it. Some of the bigger issues that I think we've all identified for women coming into the trades are childcare, although it's an issue for everyone, but childcare and work-life integration. How is the broader construction community and EmpowHER working to address those two particular barriers for women, but for the workforce as a whole?
Yeah, we were lucky to be able to administer a pilot program for childcare through North American Building Trades and Trades Futures. That just kind of wrapped up at the end of 2025. And what we got from that, not only is that we were able to help a lot of people, half of them happened to be men, half of them happened to be women. Some of them were apprentices, some of them were journey workers. So we basically were able to determine that it's safe to say that this is a family issue, so I feel like some of the work was done there. And then we also were able to look at like how much would it cost. We did a lot with, a little bit of money. I mean, it's a big number, but it wasn't, it wasn't an earth-shattering number, but it was definitely impactful for the industry. So I think we were able to just get some energy behind like what it would take to make this eventually something that was collectively bargained, and we hope to be able to if this happens on June 1st of this year when some of us have open contracts that'll hopefully be settled, or if it happens a little bit down the line. Either way, we were able to kind of like set into motion what we hope one day will be like a really big deal for Wisconsin and for tradespeople, men or women in the industry. And like, let's be real, it'll significantly impact like women's ability to like be on the job site, and that's one of the things we're lucky to have been able to be a part of, and we hope it makes a big impact. I guess as far as work-life balance and life balance, we've definitely taken the opportunity to ask women in the industry like what they want out of EmpowHER, what they want out of a group like this, and we've done some work with mentoring. We've had some grants to try to develop different programs that would be important for people, that are helpful for people. And I think what we've learned is that people want chances to connect to each other, and people want chances to like have fun at the same time as they're able to kind of like let their hair down and figure out a way to just connect to other people in the industry and share stories. And if it turns into something more formal, cool. And if it's not, then it's just a way to have fun too. Because we do spend a lot of our time working and thinking about work and talking about work. And it is also important to kind of like, have some fun too. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Looking at younger generations, what role do organizations like EmpowHER play in changing perceptions about construction as a viable career path for girls?
One of our main things is being visible in the community, and I think there are so many of us that are from different trades and from different kind of like, whether we're an apprentice or a journey worker or a union staff member of some sort. But we're all successful in what we do, so just making sure that people can see, whether it's at career fairs, social media, and things like that are critical. We just had this weekend was a girls' STEM event, and when you think about it, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, like construction is like the culmination of all of those things. So there's no more STEM kind of like situation than it is to be a construction worker. So that's something that participating in things like that, and just letting people know that you can still be a girl, you can still be girly, you can still have nails, wear makeup, get your hair done. If you don't want to do that too, you get a ton of money where you can whatever, go hunting, go fishing, like make your dreams come true. That's what I like to tell people too, is that I was in this industry when I was 18. I had no idea how much money I was making. I didn't care what the benefits were like, but now as I'm like significantly along the way, I've been able to make a bunch of my dreams come true, without even really kind of like thinking about it. All I did was show up to work and get paid. And some of the dreams that I didn't even know I wanted or had, I got to, I own my own house, I have my own, vehicle. That's pretty nice whenever it's necessary. And I got to do a lot of traveling and see a lot of things, and meet a lot of cool people along the way, and have good friendships and stuff like that. But that's based on the fact that I wanted to work hard, not, if I'm a man or a woman or what gender or what kind of things I want to do. That was just because I worked hard. So that's important for people to understand too, is that you can't, the good things about it are that, like I said, you get to make your dreams come true, whatever they are, so that's important for people to understand.
If a local union wanted to use Women in Construction Week, or a contractor too, as a catalyst for change, what's one concrete step you'd recommend that they take immediately?
I think immediately, the best thing to do is like make use of the free social media. We talk, I've said that a lot, but I mean, that's something that's obviously gonna like impact visibility. I feel like people, enjoy there's an old, I don't know, cliche, whatever it is, but it's real. If you see it, you can be it. And I think just making use of that kind of like chance to, if you have good photography and you have a good way to make a video here or there, like, short little clips that you can see people like, even just one-liners of like, I love my job, like, I love being a part of building this, like, this is what I built, like, things like that is really cool for people to be able to see, and that little short clip can sit with somebody for a long time. And we've heard time and time again about stories of like, oh, I bumped into this person, or I saw this little video, or I saw, I met this, this crazy, this girl that got to do all these cool things. I mean, making use of those stories is really critical, because they're like plentiful and they're there. And usually I would say people enjoy telling their story, and they enjoy making an impact, and they think that, there's more to it than, just, going to work and being dirty or whatever, but being proud of what you're doing and having people that are proud, share their story is really critical. And it's really easy to do that on social media and get the word out. So as far as immediate, that's a pretty easy way to do it.
We'll keep working on it. I'm glad that's why you're here today doing this, because I feel like our work is literally essential work, and it requires all of your focus, and we're all so busy. We're running around like crazy. There's cranes everywhere you go. There's a lot going on, and we don't pause to talk about what we're doing and the opportunity it presents because of all of that.
And I mean, one of the things too that people, time and time again, when you're like, oh, what's your favorite thing about the industry? It's like, most of the time it's the people and the fact that you got to be a part of building these cool things. You get to go around and like remember projects that you worked on or point things out, and like it's just, you know, the pride in what you do. That's something that we can like harvest and like share. So
looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what would success look like for women in union construction, and how would you be able to tell that we have been really moving the needle for them?
Sure. I mean, 5 to 10 years, I guess maybe seeing a few more women at, you know, the bargaining table or in, you know, certain leadership roles. And I know organizations are, you know, most of them have somebody or whatever, but I think that, you know, like just a more commonality to see, like there's plenty of meetings that I go to that I'm still like the only woman, or there's 2 of us, or you know, you look around the room and there's 1, 2, or 3, and I just think that, you know, making sure that like those visible roles as far as leadership are kind of like, you know, an option for people. Not that they aren't already, but I think, you know, just having a broader view of like what, you know, what that looks like might be important for the industry in 5 to 10 years. It's probably pretty reasonable that a couple more women could be in leadership. But definitely, like I said, you know, having, you know, women at career fairs, having women, you know, in situations where they can talk about their story is probably going to help that a lot.
Finally, as a visible leader and an advocate, what's one message you hope every woman hears during Women in Construction Week, and what she carries with her year-round?
That you're seen, and that you're respected, and that you're valuable. You know, like we talked about being a leader. You know, no matter what role you're in, and no matter kind of like what trade you're doing, no matter where you're kind of like seated within the industry, that like you're a valuable person, and the sky's the limit as far as like continuing, you know, as you are, or moving forward, or climbing the ladder. But definitely that you're valuable.
Great. Well, Kilah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If people are interested in learning more about EmpowHER, where should they go?
So we have a website, EmpowHER, so it's EmpowHERWI.org is our website, and you can always sign up. We'll put you on our mailing list. We do like a monthly newsletter that talks about all the different like events that we have coming up and that we've done, and invites you to kind of like collaborate with us at our monthly virtual meetings and at all of our events. So there's lots of different ways to get involved and like throw your input in the ring and get advice, give advice, collaborate, you know, just network with other women. So.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on for Women in Construction Week, and we will have you back very soon to talk about your union itself and a little bit more.
I'm excited.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next guest is a third-generation laborer and a Madison native who worked his way from laying sewer and water pipe in the field to leading one of Wisconsin's largest labor organizations. Kent Miller serves as president and business manager of the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, representing 10,000 construction craft laborers across 5 locals and every corner of our state. His members build and maintain the infrastructure Wisconsin depends on every single day: our roads, our water systems, our energy infrastructure, buildings, demolition, and beyond. Kent, welcome to Trade Talk Wisconsin.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do some place setting here. I touched on it a little bit in your intro, but what exactly does the Wisconsin Laborers District Council do?
Sure. So every union is structured differently. The way the laborers are structured is, we have our international, we have our regional offices, we have district council, and then our local unions. So the Wisconsin Laborers District Council is made up of 5 local unions in the state. You know, each local has their own individuality, but when we're working on things statewide as a statewide organization, we all come together and build consensus, and we negotiate our agreements together, administer our health and pension funds, our apprenticeship and training funds, our labor management, but the district council is really the statewide kind of organization to bring that all together.
When you bring up bringing it all together, help us understand the diversity within the laborers. What kind of work do laborers perform, and what makes your craft unique in your opinion?
Yeah, we are known as the most diverse craft out there, not only in the scopes of work that we do, but our membership as well. Our members are very diverse in the work that they do. They work in pretty much every aspect of the construction industry. So we're working on vertical construction, roads, bridges, sewer water infrastructure, energy, both legacy and renewables. There's been a lot of renewables in Wisconsin over the years. Environmental, hazardous waste, asbestos, you name it, right? So we're in pretty much every facet of the construction industry.
Let's shift a little bit to you individually. I'm gonna have to look at my notes here so I make sure I get my terminology right. You came up as a top man and a pipe layer doing sewer work in southern Wisconsin. Then you moved into organizing, some other roles, and now leadership here today. How does that background shape your leadership of the union now?
Yeah, good question. So I think in every one of those stages in my career brings different experiences and plays into how I want to lead our organization. I've been that member that's worked out in the field, that's working in the elements, that has rain days, that had to deal with the struggles of being laid off and living on unemployment. When we're talking about the work we do politically and legislatively, I'm always reminding myself of where I came from and what our members are going through to be that voice for them in the work that we do.
Let's dig into that a little bit more,
Okay.
no pun intended. Sewer and water work is not glamorous. You're in the ground, you're in the mud, you're dealing with things that, to put it politely, most people don't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
What is the worst condition you've ever worked in, and what got you through it that day?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different examples, but when I first started in the industry, I had a foreman that would always say it's not anything you want to eat in the night before. I didn't know how to respond to that, there's been plenty of projects that we've had that, whether we're dealing with groundwater challenges, bypassing the sewers, right? When we're replacing existing sewer systems, you have to bypass the flow that's in the existing line. We've had those pumps fail before, where then all the sewage is back in the ditch as you're working and you're fighting with that. So, but I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of challenges that happen on any job site, and we're trained to deal with those challenges. And we just push through it and get the job done, and that's what's so great about the union building trades. So,
yeah, for anyone wondering if we're trying to misrepresent the careers we're offering, we are giving it to you straight.
Yeah.
Exactly what you can expect here in the podcast. Let's shift a little though. What did you actually love about that work?
Yeah, I mean, every day it was something different, and working out in the elements, working out in the environment. I mean, that can be rewarding, but that can also be a challenge. I've worked in thunderstorms. We've had a water main break while the tornado sirens are going off, right? And people depend on their sewer and water infrastructure, they count on our signatory contractors and our members to get the job done. So, there's a lot of challenges out there, but it's very rewarding work, and I think that all of our members have that mindset. So,
You're a Madison kid, just like me, became a third-generation laborer. Madison has a reputation as a college town, a government town, not exactly a hard hat town. Did you ever have a different plan in mind for your career path before you decided to follow in your family footsteps?
Yeah, so straight out of high school, I was just still kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was really interested actually in culinary arts and cooking. So I was going to pursue something in culinary arts. I was looking at UW Stout has a really good program and I was like, I'm gonna, work for a summer, and I got into the laborers, signed up with Laborers Local 464, and my first year in construction made over 70 grand, got great health and pension benefits, and then I was like, why would I want to leave this, right? So they got me, and then the rest of my career took off from there. So.
And now you can use the livelihood you make with the laborers to go out and enjoy lots of wonderful food and drink
Yep.
in your free time.
Yep.
If a young Kent Miller showed up at your office today and he asked you for advice, what would you tell him that no one told you back then?
Yeah, it took me a little while to understand really what the union was, and all the different benefits and all the different opportunities that the union provides, and so it took me a few years before into my career before I really started understanding some of the moving parts and started participating, and going to monthly meetings, and being part of some of the training that the training center provides. So I would say to a younger Kent, from day one, like, get involved with your union, go to your monthly meetings, learn more, ask questions. The union isn't just the leaders. The union is all of us coming together and being one powerful voice that can accomplish all sorts of things. And it's a democratic organization, right? And I didn't really recognize that until I started getting more involved in the union. So.
That is a theme that came up with our previous guest, with Corey, of the democratic nature of what we do. I think how it's contributed to the longevity of our unions and the effectiveness. I think you also see that there's not like the shiny object syndrome here when we're being led by our membership. We're not jumping to one thing or another as quickly. And I think it works, it serves us really well.
Yeah.
How about the most physically demanding thing you ever had to do on a job site? Do you remember a day in particular where you went home and you could not move after?
Yeah. So earlier, when I first started Sewer and Water, I kind of saying, what did I get myself into here? And the work that the contractor I was working for at the time, RG Houston, they were going after a lot of very wet, challenging, deep projects. And so there was a project out in Belleville. And if you're familiar with Belleville area, you got the Sugar River, you got a lot of groundwater. And so when you start installing manholes and sewer, you kind of initially get all the dewatering done, and you got to stay ahead of it. And we were dragging 2 pumps in the ditch. We had header pipes and point systems. We had wells, and there was some really long, 16+ hour days that, because we had to stay ahead of that groundwater, we just had to keep working, right? So eat on the fly, keep getting pipe in the ground and stay ahead of that groundwater. And those were some really, especially earlier on in my career, some really challenging, trying times on my mind and my body, because it's very repetitive work that you're doing, right? And so that sticks with me. Those are some tough days. So, but we got through it and got the job done.
You were appointed to replace John Schmidt in 2022, and then elected unanimously as leader of the Wisconsin Laborers District Council in 2023. John had been a LIUNA member for 48 years. It's an incredible legacy to follow, and knowing that, how did you manage that transition?
Yeah, so first of all, I got to give John a shout out and thank him very much. When I transitioned from the organizing department to the assistant business manager of the district council, he had a vision, and he brought on at that time a 30-year-old kid, whatever you want to call, that I wasn't part of local union leadership. I came from the organizing side of things, and before that was out in the field, and he had a vision, and he gave me a shot. And So I thank him very much for that opportunity. I would not be here without that vision. And we also got a great opportunity to work together for almost 10 years. And so working together, I think that helped with the transition and how I wanted to lead our union after his retirement.
You don't always see that, kind of going back to what we were talking about this being a democratic body. Sometimes people just rise up when there's a leadership election, and as the leader of the Wisconsin Building Trades, I'm all of a sudden meeting someone who's on my board that I had never met before. But I first met you with John when I worked in the Capitol, and you guys would come in and visit, and it has been really neat to see that progression, and it's clearly served you and your members really well to have, that really intentional handoff and positioning you well to step in here.
Yeah, succession planning is always like a difficult thing to do in organized labor and in our industry in general. There's a lot of relationships and a lot of historical knowledge, and when people retire, if you don't have somebody that you can kind of build, make those connections and build those relationships and kind of help that transition, you lose a lot, right? And then you have to start from scratch and kind of reestablish stuff that has already happened and already gone through. So I think the transition worked out really well for us and the laborers.
Even with all the intention that was put into that transition, is there anything about the job that you didn't expect to be hard and has been challenging for you, taking you by surprise?
One of the challenges I have is and how I wanted to lead was, having a lot more building consensus and trying to recognize, our 5 local unions, they all have different challenges, and so how I wanted to lead was to have a lot more front-end discussion, provide the facts, the information, and it's a lot of work, but I think building that consensus and going into whether it's contract negotiations or trustee meetings, it's paying off. It's a lot more hard work to go that route, but it's working well for us. So.
What do you really love about the job?
My favorite part of the job is getting out of the office and meeting with the members where they're at, right? And having some discussions. I just last fall set a goal where I wanted to spend the day with each one of our agents throughout the state. I didn't want any accommodations. Where do you want me to meet you? What's your normal day like? And would meet them at a Quick Trip or somewhere, hop in the car, and we'd go off to the job sites. And those interactions with the members were priceless. And some of those experiences, especially, I had the opportunity to go to the Kilah nuclear power plant as they're decommissioning, and actually got suited up and went inside a nuclear reactor, right? How many people can say that? And when I came in there all suited up and my members, and I'm shaking hands with my members, they're like, oh my God, what are you doing in here? This is cool, And so, really cool experiences, but going back to the work our members do and their pride, I love to see them out on the job sites and see the pride that they take in the work that they do, so.
You take others along on that too, though, because I've seen your videos, and if you don't follow the Wisconsin Laborers District Council on social media, you should, because they put a lot of work into their social media channels, and they're really great. Is that a new thing? Kind of the first person videos you've been doing? I'm correct, that's when you're out with visiting agents, correct?
Yep. And our agents are starting to do a lot of that as well. So it's not just me, our agents, our members. One thing I think that with technology and with social media that we can do is tell our story, right? And showcase all the great work our members do, our contractor partners do, the union building trades do, and we all have our phones, it doesn't take much just to hold it up and shoot a 30-second clip and share it with everybody on social. So we get a lot of good feedback on it, and it's something we're going to continue to ramp up and do. So tell our story.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of what we do is really visual. You drive by it every day. We'll talk about that later. But I think there is a lot of gaps in knowledge about what we do, which is the whole point of the podcast, is to kind of break those walls down. But
Yeah.
you guys are doing a lot of work on your own to do that. Outside of work, what do you do to recharge? What are you passionate about in your free time?
Yep. So I had mentioned earlier cooking. So I like trying different recipes and trying new things. I do a fair amount of gardening and enjoy that. Just maybe I just can't get away from playing in the dirt, but I really enjoy that as just kind of a decompress, throw in the earbuds, play some music, and do some weeding and gardening. But otherwise, just spending time with my wife and our 5 dogs.
If you could have dinner, maybe one that you cook yourself, with anyone in labor history or anyone in the building trades, the union movement, anyone, who would you have at that dinner table with you?
I would probably say somebody in the building trades that's been very influential, and we just lost him last year, was my grandfather. As you said, I'm a 3rd-generation laborer. Both my father and grandfather started doing labor's work, and then eventually became operators. And he was always somebody I could, bounce off, whether it was stuff at work or life. But he had a lot of, as we talked earlier, a lot of institutional knowledge, and knew a lot of the players in the industry and relationships that he's had. So he was always somebody I could confide in and talk through some of the challenges I'm facing in real time, and be nice. We would always grab dinner, whether it was a Toby's or the Tornado Room, so miss those opportunities of spending time with him and talking shop. So,
What would you ask him about now, from where you're sitting?
Well, we got 7 contracts coming up for negotiation, so maybe I'd dabble in a little bit of contract negotiation, and he'd tell me how they used to get things done back in the day, but we'd have some back and forth conversations about, whether it was a big project coming up in the area, negotiations, pretty much anything.
It's a good reminder that we have contracts coming up, because I that means I need to get some stuff done too, so I'm not bothering you and a bunch of other board members. I always walk into that buzzsaw right around the time when I called someone and they're like, I'm not talking to you right now. We'll have to do a CBA episode to talk a little bit more about that process, because I think it's really what people would find it fascinating. Before we move on to more discussion around your union, let's wrap up with the last thing you built or fixed with your own hands, not on a job site, just at home.
Yeah.
How did it turn out? What were you doing?
Yeah, actually, this past weekend, I got materials for some garden beds. And so I got them put together, although it's still a little early to start planting or fill it with dirt, but I at least got the garden beds built and ready for the upcoming season. So
I might have to get some tips from you. Should help with your weeding, at least.
Yep.
That's what I always think about with my garden. I'm like, if I just had the beds, maybe that would help control the weeds. It's summer and it's all out of control. Let's shift out and talk a little bit more about the laborers. As we started this discussion, talking about the laborers are described as the most diverse trade in construction, in terms of the work, the workers, the communities you come from. Why is that, and how does it make LIUNA stronger?
the work that we do in our recruitment and workforce development, really because of our outreach, really we're getting into all segments of the community, and so we have partnerships with like the Tino Academy and Operation Fresh Start and Big Step and other community-based organizations. And so, we're making sure that it's known that there's opportunities to join our trade, and and at a time that there's so much work out there, and we also see a lot of folks that are coming into our trade. Maybe they were pursuing something else, and it just didn't pan out the way they thought it was going to be, and they want to change in their career. I've seen over at the training center, we've got members going to training right now that have like PhDs and teaching degrees, and it's just there's a lot of pride and joy in the work that the building trades do, and some people just want a different change in work environment and opportunities, and good wages coupled with great healthcare benefits and retirement security. Plus, you're getting the training at no cost, part of the package. If people have a good work ethic, there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're starting to get that message as a collective, as the union trades are getting that message about opportunity out there, and people are recognizing that and are interested. So
we just talked about your story. You were the third miller to be in the laborers, the third generation, but that's not the case, and that's not what we're trying to move towards as a building trades, is like expanding that net of how people hear about us, how people enter these careers. Have you been tracking hard demographics to give yourselves a picture of the diversity of your union and how it's changing and growing?
Yeah, it's been growing. Once again, there's a lot of work out there, and because we're so diverse in the work that we perform, there's the need for more laborers out there is greater. So we had a 5.8% increase in membership just in last year alone. And we've also, when we look at the ethnicity of our membership, we're probably around 20% Hispanic or Latino, about 12.5% African American, and then we have also been getting a lot of women joining the laborers. So statewide, we could improve, we can do better, but we're about 5% of our membership is women statewide. But if we look at just the women going into our apprenticeship program, we're almost 10%. So we know that we're bringing a lot more when we talk about new membership, right? Usually that's apprentices, and that growth has doubled, of women participation in our apprenticeship versus the statewide number. So, we'll keep growing from there and keep improving. But we're happy with the diversity numbers, and are wanting to be a very inclusive organization, once again, just focused on opportunities, and if folks are interested, we're here. So
Before we started taping today, I was showing Kent my shirt, which Kent gave to me, which is for those that are not watching on YouTube, it's a Rosie the Riveter on the front with the "We Can Do It" in laborers orange. So I was really happy today because we're also filming during Women in Construction Week that I have a shirt on for the taping that encompasses laborers and women in construction. What do you think is appealing to women when they look at your union for coming in? Because you guys have been doing an outstanding job. I think you're leading with a few other trades around female recruitment. First
is just making sure that whether it's a training environment, the work environment on the job site, we talk about the construction industry as being known as a very male-dominated industry. And so we have those conversations with our members that if we're going to continue to grow as an organization, women need to be part of it. And the work that we do, women can do it, and they can do it better than some of the guys out there. So it's the conversations, making sure that we're creating an environment for everybody to be included. We've looked at some of our different benefits via our health fund. So we wanted to make sure, and I believe the Wisconsin Labor's Health Fund implemented, I want to say it was like 2019, 2020, that we implemented a maternity leave benefit. So we provide $800 a week for up to 6 weeks for a normal childbirth. And then if it's a cesarean, there's an additional 2 weeks. So that's just to provide a little extra cushion while you have that child and while you're taking care of that child before you transition back to work. In addition to that, our international, maybe you were at the Tradeswomen conference when our general president, Brent Booker, announced the international also provides a maternity benefit, and that's across the country. And so we've had, because we already had one, we've had some of our female members be able to draw the Wisconsin Labor's benefit and the LIUNA benefit during their childbirth. So, and their benefit was also an additional $800 a week. And so, it's $1,600 a week to kind of help you out during that time. So, taking away those barriers, because we understand, work, there should be a work-life balance, and having a career in the building trades, having a career with the laborers shouldn't impact your ability to have those life plans of having a child, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to make sure we address that, and yeah, it's working well for our members.
Well, thank you to you and your international on leading on that. I was there. They were in New Orleans, I think, when that happened, and I was running late. I had been doing something on my computer and came in right as he was announcing it, and it was the reaction I will not forget. It was electric. It was, yeah, really exciting. Your members work on everything from highway infrastructure to demolition to asbestos abatement to solar farms. How do you build a coherent identity and sense of pride across such a wide range of work?
I think going back to like the benefits of a union membership, regardless of what work they're doing, it's the camaraderie, the solidarity, the brother and sisterhood. We do a lot of different membership activities. Every one of our locals have their own local specific events. It could be, I know my local 464 does a race night. They do a breakfast with Santa event, family picnic, right? Meant to be inclusive, bring the family, bring the spouse, bring the kids, a lot of different activities. And it's really, about that camaraderie. We're advocates, collectively advocating for better wages, better benefits, better training, safety's number one on the job site, and making sure that training and having a safe work environment is very important. And that's across all aspects of the industry, all scopes of work, and having that uniformity, regardless of what work you're doing, I think helps build the solidarity in our organization. So.
And good branding.
Yep.
You guys are very good with your branding, probably the most disciplined of any trade.
Yep.
I know every time I come here, I always take a look over at the table to see what you guys have put out recently with the logo on it. You also do a lot of work other trades never have to touch. Asbestos abatement, like we just mentioned, demolition of hazardous buildings, environmental remediation. It's essential work, and it also protects our communities. Why don't we talk about that more, and what do you want people to understand about your members that do that work?
I think we talked a little bit about this earlier too. It's like the work of a laborer is not glamorous, but it's work that's essential that people rely on, and somebody's got to do it. And so, we were kind of founded as an international. We were workers that were willing to do the work that nobody else wanted to do. We were founded, by immigrants who came together to fight for better wages, better benefits, working conditions, in doing the really crummy, shitty work that's out there. So that was 1903, and fast forward to today, we're still willing to do those tough jobs and get the job done.
Your tagline is "Feel the Power." What does that mean to you and your members?
Feel the power is really, to me, it's the power of LIUNA, the power of a union membership, the power of collective action, working together. if we are all working together, there's so much that we can accomplish together. And there's a lot of, whether it's advocating for a data center project or supporting regulatory approval for a solar or wind project. If we work together at any of the issues that are in front of us, we can create those more job opportunities for our members, which helps create more good paying careers, which adds money to our health and pension benefits, and it kind of does that full circle and grows the organization. We need more members, more market share, and so really feeling the power is being engaged, being part of your union, and working collectively to grow power and grow our organization. So that's what Feel the Power means to me. And I would say a lot of our members, and they're the ones that are out there getting the job done.
You've described your members as the lifeblood of the union. What is a moment in the last year where a member reminded you exactly why you do everything that you do?
Yeah, there's many examples. One of the great parts, I think, of my office being where it's at, which is in the same building as our training center, is I get a lot of opportunities to go over and go through our benefits and answer questions of the members. It's our union's largest touch point is our training facility, and they're all coming here. So we need to take advantage of that and have conversations, build relationships, interact. And I've had some stories about having a career with the laborers, what it's meant to be able to be a first-time home buyer. I talked actually a few weeks ago with a single father, and because of the quality healthcare that we have, and he has a few kids that are needing some different medical needs, and because of the quality of the healthcare that we provide, he doesn't have to fret and worry about medical bills because he knows that he's got excellent health insurance, and that's while he is laid off taking training in the winter, because the way our eligibility works is when he puts hours in during the bulk of construction season, it carries him over during kind of some of the slower times of our industry. So just hearing those firsthand experiences of what the union does for its members is very, very impactful and very empowering to hear.
You provided a perfect segue about the building we are recording in, your training center. It's really a piece of Wisconsin history at this point. The center started in Portage County in 1973. It relocated here to DeForest in 2004, and it has expanded a number of times. I think you did one while I've been here. President Biden has visited here. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh toured it. It receives regular visits from members of Congress, members of the legislature. It basically serves as a physical and symbolic space to connect Wisconsin workers to our policymakers, and together we kind of shape the state. Day to day, I have some stats here. The DeForest Training Center certifies over 3,500 workers every year. It offers 35 courses, everything from pipe laying to hazmat to CDL licensing, decorative concrete. What has driven that growth, and what does the next chapter of investment look like for this space we're in?
Well, last week we had a training fund trustees meeting, and we just approved a $10 million budget for another addition that we're hoping to let out for bid probably in May of 26. That's another 20,000 square foot addition, 3 more classrooms, 3 more training bays. And it's really the growth, the relationships, the partnerships, policy definitely has something to do with that. If we look at our apprenticeship program and the growth just in apprentices, a lot of that we can attribute to the IRA the Inflation Reduction Act, and all the solar and wind and renewable projects. When we talk about data centers in Wisconsin, how that creates opportunities, not only building the data centers, but then there's energy needs for those data centers, so there's more work opportunities. So it's just this a lot of growth in the industry, and because of the relationships we have, partnerships we have with our contractors and developers, we need to meet that demand. So we need to be planning ahead, and we're bursting at the seams here right now. So not only the additional space, I think this year we've added 3 or 4 different extra courses. We're probably closer, I think, maybe to 40 now, and we'll continue to grow as our contractors ask us that they need us to work on certain skill sets or certain types of training that are niche to their part of the industry. So if we're not growing, we're dying, right? So we got to keep on with forward progress and expansion and growth. So that's really good problem to have.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys break ground on that. How many apprentices are currently in the pipeline across all your locals?
Yep, we statewide, and we actually just had a fair amount of graduations. I think we're over 30 graduations already, and it's just the beginning of March. So I think right now we're probably around the 600 that are active in the program right now. But we also have another 600 applicants that are waiting. They've passed their AccuPlacer or they've submitted ACT scores that are acceptable to get into our program, and they're just waiting for a contractor to sponsor their apprenticeship. So we're getting prepared for, as I've said, a very busy upcoming season, and we've done a lot of work on workforce development to get folks interested in applying, and we'll be ready to find them all contractor partners to work with, hopefully this upcoming construction season.
What makes a good candidate for a laborer's apprenticeship?
Yeah, you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. As we've said, it's at times it's not the most glamorous work. At times it's very repetitive work. But if you are, have good modes of transportation, can get to the job site, you have a good work ethic, you can show up on time. On time is not, if starting's at 7, it's not at 5 minutes to 7, it's 15, 20 minutes early, getting ready for the day, and put in a good day's work. You'll be rewarded with a fair day's pay, excellent health, excellent pension, and you do that for many years and build your career. And we've got a lot of things included in our benefits that set you up as you're an active member. You're actually building towards your retirees' health insurance. You're building and growing that pension. And so, it's really, it's all built into the business model. And, as long as you have the good work ethic, the willingness to learn, we'll take care of the training. And our contractor partners do as well. That's how you kind of get your foot in the door. And then from there, you kind of understand the different parts of the industry, and maybe you want to go from building vertical to heavy highway. We will help you with that transition. And so a lot of opportunities, but you first got to apply and then get a contractor sponsor.
So for someone who listened to everything you said and they're like, yes, I can be on time, I'll work hard, I'm not afraid to get dirty every now and then, what are the next steps you would advise them on? What should they do? Whether maybe they're in high school about to graduate, or they're someone my age that wants a career change. What are the next steps after that?
Yep, so we have on our website, which is liunawisconsin.org, all spelled out. We have a membership application, so a good first step is just whether you have some skill sets already, or you have, haven't worked in the industry before. Fill out the membership application. That gets vetted every week, and then you'll get a follow-up call. If you've got skill sets already, you'll get directed directly to one of our local unions, and if you have very little experience, you'll get kind of geared towards our apprenticeship program and the next steps of how do you get your letter of introduction with our apprenticeship. So there's a couple different options of where you might go, but based off of your skill sets. But the first step is filling out that membership application.
Great. Let's shift a little bit and talk about contractor relationships. Over 900 contractors have chosen to partner as a signatory contractor with the Wisconsin laborers. That's a huge market share. What does it take to build and keep those relationships?
Statewide and our locals, we have a lot of different opportunities to engage with our contractor partners, but we like to, in addition to contract negotiations and the different trustees that serve on our funds, we like to just build those working relationships and network, and I think it's just relationships are key, and so I think it's known that if you have a question, an issue, concern, whether it's calling our local unions, whether it's calling the district council, our phones are always on. Kind of an open door, open phone policy, like let us know how we can be better partners, and vice versa. We have that same relationship with our contractor partners. We have collective bargaining agreements, which is what we negotiated, and we agreed to hold up, both sides, labor and management, agreed to hold up their end of the bargain. And so it requires communications throughout that process to make sure we're best serving one another.
You spent years at RG Houston Company and Speedway Sand and Gravel doing sewer and water work, as we covered earlier. What did you learn about the contractor-worker relationship from that point in your career?
I mean, I remember being out in the field and seeing like my union BA show up and, maybe one of the upper management or even times where the owner of the company was out on the job site and interacting with the union. And it was, kind of the camaraderie and telling jokes and, but then, talking about labor needs or training needs and how, once again, we can work together to accomplish the same goals, really. We want our contractors to be successful, and we want them to get more work opportunities, bid on more work, secure bids, because that's more work opportunities for our members. So, but both with RG Houston and Speedway, I had seen firsthand their interactions with the union, and Tom DeBeck, the owner of Speedway Sand and Gravel, would always say, like, go to your monthly meetings, ask questions, like, get involved in your union. He was very vocal about that and still is to this day. So that's nice. It's nice to hear. It's reassuring. It's a business model for them as well. So.
Tracing a little further along, when you became a marketing representative, your job was to go around and convince non-union contractors to go union. During those conversations, what did you hear from contractors about what they need from a labor partner to join?
So before I became an organizer, I had to go through, the Labor's International has a 10-day program that all of our organizers go through. And one thing that stuck with me during that training, and then that I made sure I implemented in my interactions with non-signatory contractors was, I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So, I wanted to ask a few questions and then just listen. What are some of the challenges they have in the industry, whether it's workforce, whether it's training, sometimes it is healthcare cost, and other things. And then from there, explain how our business model, the tools in our toolbox, can help their company. And so sometimes it sounds good, but then they're still kind of hesitant on, but we would still want to maintain and keep those relationships, because sometime down the road, they may revisit the healthcare issue or training issue and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna take a chance and you know, sign your guys' agreement and be a union contractor. So you got to have patience. You got to have tough skin. There's some you know, some stigmas out there too. That I think misconceptions and stigmas about unions. So I think it was a good opportunity for me to kind of address that with non-signatory contractors, but also, you know, let them know the facts. And so it was good. It was good.
You've made some pretty big partnerships this year with contractors. In your current role now, what is your pitch to a developer or a GC that's never worked union before? Or maybe what do you say in the first 5 minutes when you sit down with them?
You know, really it's just listening to what the challenges, every project brings, you know, poses different challenges, right? Whether it's permitting or regulatory approval, whether it's you know, the workforce demand and you know, heavy draws on the labor pool and the need for a lot of workers, expedited construction, right? So we're trying to find not only workers that are willing to work and put in you know, an 8-hour day, and now maybe it's a 12-hour day or 6 days a week, and so like there's a lot of that. So I think just like being transparent of like, we need all the facts, we need to understand all the moving parts, and then we can go back to like, of all the tools in the toolbox that we have, like this is how we can assist you, right? And really, you know, building that trust. You know, first impressions are that, and really, so you know, we've got to not only talk about it with you, we've got to back it up. You know, I can't commit to making sure we're going to supply 150 laborers in one local's jurisdiction if we don't know we can supply 150 laborers, right? And so, you know, that requires a lot of planning years ago to be able to sit in those meetings and be confident that we can meet the demands of projects, project owners, and developers. So we got to be positioned right and be able to back up what we're offering.
Wisconsin has lost union density in construction over several decades, but you guys are leading the charge on growing us back. Do you think you can get there? And what would have to change in Wisconsin economically, politically, culturally to make that possible? You
know, like I said, we've got, you know, fair amounts of market share in some areas, but there's more opportunities to grow. I think that if we go back kind of policy-wise and politically, you know, we had some darker times for organized labor under Governor Scott Walker with the repealing of state prevailing wages, with right-to-work legislation, with repealing the ability for municipalities and government entities to use project labor agreements. But I know that we're also on the cusp of a very important election cycle this fall, and that's the opportunity where, regardless of politics, regardless of you know, supporting a Democrat or Republican, that we focus on what's best for our members and get policy back in place that supports working people. And so I think that there's an opportunity this fall to make the environment better for us to be able to, you know, get more projects approved, not only approved, but, you know, constructed with fair wages and benefits and standards and working conditions and all the protections that, let's say, a project labor agreement provides, or state and local prevailing wages provide. So I know that's something we'll be focused on this fall, but you know, it's really about, outside of politically, it's really about you know, building relationships and getting to know all the players in the industry. And when we start having those conversations, we find out that we have a lot more in common than not, and then can really focus on what that partnership would look like.
And we'll be back in the fall to talk the political landscape because you guys play a big role in it. So I'm looking forward to that as we move along through that process. Let's talk a little bit more about the work. We have aging buildings all across Wisconsin, schools, industrial facilities, old municipal infrastructure. There's a lot of demolition, remediation work in the pipeline. How are you positioning the laborers to capture that work?
Once again, going back to relationships, partnerships, but also thinking outside the box. And so we were very fortunate to, when we talk like lead lateral work, for instance, come up with there's a different type of contracting method or business model. And so we became workforce development partners with an organization called Community Infrastructure Partners. It's a community-based public-private partnership. And they started doing work in Wisconsin around lead laterals in the city of Wausau, where they have a very ambitious goal of getting 8,000 lead laterals replaced in a 5-year period. We've gone through a couple years now of that program. It's been very successful to the point where other municipalities across Wisconsin are having conversations with them, and I believe most recently the city of Racine is going to be entering into a partnership, and it's just a different contracting method that allows to maximize and get the most accomplished in a season with and find savings and efficiencies with that public-private partnership. So we're really excited about that, and I think that there's other whether it's contracting methods or different types of scopes of work or parts of the market that we've been able to expand in, is helping play a role in that.
You've played a big role in advocating for utility scale solar and other renewable energy work in Wisconsin. How are you positioning the laborers to capture work with renewables, and what does it take to train your members on that work?
Well, energy infrastructure in general is just, is very important. Our organization, LIUNA, is an international, and the Wisconsin laborers have always been kind of a D, all the above when it comes to energy policy. We've had members that have worked in, coal generation facilities, natural gas generation facilities, and it wasn't too long ago, probably 5-7 years before we really started seeing this kind of renewable boom in Wisconsin, and we wanted to make sure that we could have some of that market share. We could partner up and create those work opportunities for our members. The first project that came into Wisconsin kind of went south. They brought in, it was an out-of-state non-union contractor, brought in out-of-state workers, and then basically all of our taxpayer dollars, ratepayer dollars are leaving our state, right? And our goal when we have conversations with developers and project owners is to make sure that we keep those construction dollars, those wages earned in our state to maximize the economic benefits. And so we got involved in the regulatory process, and then from there kind of made sure that there were goals set to make sure we were reaching out to Wisconsin workers and wanted to make sure that they had opportunities to work on this. So that's kind of how it started, and now it's evolved to we have several solar projects currently, utility scaled solar projects going on now. We have a handful more that are going to be breaking ground this year, and so that has required us to add some more courses for our training. So we do have some solar courses that our training center provides, some exposure classes of, it's different materials, different construction methods, different things that they're going to have to learn. But great opportunity and great pairing career in utility scaled solar. I know the laborers, we just broke last year over 1 million work hours in utility scaled solar and battery storage. And this year, with how many projects we're going to have going on, we'll keep growing that number.
A lot of the infrastructure funding that created this work, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, as you mentioned, is now under a significant amount of political pressure. What's your assessment of the risk to your workforce, to the laborers over the next few years because of that?
That was very unfortunate because it has been, and I can give you real life examples, and I've shared some already of how that's been a catalyst for our apprenticeship program, and really helped help build our workforce in Wisconsin in general. Like we have some members that have come through solar and then gone through their apprenticeship and training, and it's helped feed the heavy highway industry or the vertical building side, and really the requirement for apprentices on IRA projects has really helped build our workforce across the industry. And so it's unfortunate that it became political like it did. We're unfortunately seeing that throughout the country with other projects like the Gateway Tunnel project on the East Coast, and we can't play politics with our members' jobs and their careers and their livelihoods. So we're hoping there's enough of that work in the queue right now. One thing that I kind of think could be a really good opportunity to keep renewables going is data center development. And if we can get some guardrails, and there's a couple, one piece of legislation that we're supporting right now in Wisconsin that would put those guardrails in place and make sure that we're making investments in renewables, and that could kind of backfill the absence of the IRA as that kind of slowly comes to an end. So, but stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely stay tuned. Wrapping up our pipeline work discussion, what is the last time someone outside of the trade said something that made you realize how little some people know about the work your members are doing every day?
Yeah, it happens every once in a while. I think the concept of, I think first of all, people don't realize like how many different building trades unions there are, right? Mm-hmm. They kind of loop you all in together as, well, you're a construction union, but which union are you, Mm-hmm. And maybe they're more familiar with, public sector unions, or maybe they just have no knowledge and they're just looping like you're part of the union and there's just like one union out there. So there's a lot of moving parts to organized labor. But we do all share a lot in common in fighting for working people and fighting for protections, providing great wages, benefits for the members that we represent, and I think right here, right now, is an opportunity to kind of share information about each different organization, and I think it's a great thing that you're doing with these podcasts, and it's a good start. So,
thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for segueing us
Yeah.
into a few questions that are more building trades generally focused. One of my favorite ways I've heard you describe your union, and I've stolen it a few times in other conversations, is as a jobs club. Can you explain to listeners why framing it that way is important to your membership and also to other stakeholders when you explain what we do?
When I have conversations with our members, I always say at the end of the day, there's a lot of different things we're involved in, and unfortunately, this country is very politically divided, and for different reasons, right? There's social issues, there's other things, but when we're talking about our union, our number one focus is job opportunities for our members, right? We're a jobs club, and everything that kind of goes into that, collective bargaining, wages, any policy, training, apprenticeship, like you put it all together, and every area that our industry touches, like that's what we're focused on, first and foremost, number one, because that's going to create opportunities for our members to support their families, to build their careers, and retire with dignity. And so we're not worried about if it's red or blue, if it's Dem or Republican. It's what's going to be best for job opportunities for our members, and what creates a level playing field for our contractors to bid fairly when they're paying good wages and benefits, and there's some extra costs with that, versus, let's say, a contractor that cuts some corners and doesn't pay their workers and misclassifies them or whatever. Like, how do we advocate for policies that put everybody on a level playing field, where at the end of the day, all you're competing on is skills, safety, and productivity, right? And if that's what we're competing on, we know that we have the best training facilities in the state, and that's going to give our contractors the competitive edge. And so, I try to explain that to our members. We want a seat at the table, because if we don't have a seat at the table, we're on the menu, and we want to be part of making those decisions and making that environment fair for everybody. And when I kind of frame it that way, they're like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
This jobs club we're all in, what did the laborers do specifically that benefits all building trades? Where do you feel you lead?
I think we work a lot collectively, as the building trades. As you said, we're very engaged in the political process. We see a lot of value. That's not always, the easiest conversations to be had. But I think there's a lot of overlap in our advocacy that we all benefit from, right? I think we work towards, apprenticeship utilization. I think we all have some common goals in mind of how can we increase participation. Even though every year we've had record numbers of participation, as I said earlier, I have a backlog of over 600 individuals that are wanting to get into the trades, wanting to become a laborer, that are waiting for a contractor to sponsor their apprenticeship. So how do we start getting them into the fold, and contractors making that investment in workforce development? It all depends on what projects they have in front of them and what challenges they have with workforce, and how we get them into the mix. So. But that's something that I think we all benefit from.
What have you learned from other trades?
There's been a lot. I learned a lot from, every one of my local business managers, and then, sitting on your executive board, some of the interactions with the other board members, whether it's, how to, address an issue with a contractor, a collective bargaining issue, or we've learned a lot where we've worked together and done some joint training together, because there's overlap between our crafts. It's once again, our heart and our minds are all in the same boat and same area. And I think the Wisconsin Building Trades gives us a platform to be able to have those kind of conversations, interact, have dialogue, and find out how we can partner up and work together amongst the trades at a lot of the things that we're striving for.
Construction workers in general have a reputation for stoicism. You don't complain, you just get it done. Do you think that culture is a strength, or does it sometimes work against us?
I personally think it's a strength, that it's kind of that grit, that need to just kind of dig down and get the task at hand accomplished, get that project, wherever you're at in the project, get that next concrete pour done, get that next manhole set, finish paving that final mile of road. I think that helps our drive to get things done. The caution though on that is we always got to have safety in mind too, right? And sometimes you do have to kind of step back and think about things as you're moving through the construction process. So I think it's good, but I think you also got to make sure that you're aware. You can't get complacent, because when you get complacent, sometimes things are forgotten. And so I think we need to be mindful of that, but still have the grit.
What's a misconception about union leaders that you would like to correct?
We are a democratic organization, and so when we talk about leadership, when we talk about how leadership gets to their positions, like it's through voting for your local union leaders, voting for your district council delegates. I came up as in order to be in my position, I had to be a district council delegate of my local union, right? And so that was a vote of the membership to put me in as a district council delegate. And then from there, I was voted by the delegates that are made up of over 5 local unions to be the state president business manager. So I think there's some misconceptions that they're just it's who and people get put into positions. You've got to earn the members' trust in order to and it's a process in order to be put into union leadership. And we all have constitutions. We all have to run for election. It's usually, for our organization, our local unions are every 3 years. The district council positions are every 4 years, and our international is every 5 years. So constitutionally, you're voting to put your leaders in their positions, and they're voting for further up, for the other leaders at the district council level and the international level. So. But it's all a democratic process. People don't just get appointed into it. So
we're coming up on the end of our chat. So I have a collection of some final closing questions for you. Construction sites have their own culture, their own humor, their own language. What's something from job site culture that you miss now that you're here in the office?
I think the job site banter to a certain extent, the kind of joking around. You spend more time with your coworkers out on the job than you do sometimes your own family, right? And you build these relationships, the camaraderie, and you get to know one another's mannerisms, and at the end of the day, when you're spending 16 hours, you got to have a little fun on the job site too. And so there's times where I feel, in the office environment, I'm like, well, I think I know that person good enough. I could have, a little banter with them. And then I got to remember that this isn't the same kind of environment. Mm-hmm. So I've always got to refrain, but I do miss some of the on-site, getting through the day with my colleagues out in the field.
If you had one day back in the field, or one day of physical labor again, what job would you do? What would you want to do?
I'd go put pipe in the ground. Yep.
Return to your roots.
Yep.
You lead thousands of workers across Wisconsin. Has a member ever said anything to you, at a union meeting, out on a job site, anywhere, that kind of stopped you cold and really struck you?
It all depends on the issue. Unfortunately, I've seen in our industry a lot, off the job, in our members' day-to-day lives. Like, they're dealing with a lot of other stresses, right? And sometimes they'll come to their union leaders to talk about non-work related, more personal items, and we want to be there for them, because sometimes those stresses where they feel like they you know, they don't know where to go, or they don't know how to deal with a certain issue. Sometimes the union does have resources to help them out. You know, a lot of unions have employee assistance programs. We just actually went to a different EAP in January of 26, a more comprehensive one that also offers like life coaching sessions. So they, you know, if it's financial literacy, or you're a single parent, or, you know, how to go through some of life stresses. But, you know, I've heard some stories over the time where it's just kind of stopped me, and you got to remember that we're diverse in the work we do, we're diverse in the people that we represent, and they have all sorts of different life experiences as well. And, you know, we want to be there for them, because we also want to make sure that those issues or concerns or life stresses aren't bleeding off onto the job site, and keeping that safety priority. And so, you know, yeah, there's been a handful of times where, you know, we just got to stop what we're doing and listen and see how we can help.
What excites you most about the future of the laborers' work in Wisconsin?
What excites me the most is just the opportunity for growth, and growing the organization. Since I've been in the president business manager role, statewide we've grown a little over 12%, and just last year we had a really successful campaign signing up the sign and barrel traffic control industry, and that coupled with the renewable projects and the need for a lot of apprentices. Like I said, we had a 5.83% membership growth just last year alone. So I'm really excited about bringing more folks into our organization, and with that, you know, growing the quality of our benefits, improving the quality of our pension benefits, and providing more training opportunities. Those are three areas that with more members we're going to be able to grow all of those things as well. So
this maybe leads into the next question. You're a very young leader, probably one of the youngest that sit around the table of the state building trades. But when you eventually do retire from this role, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I think we always have a mindset of, you know, leaving the organization better than where we found it, right? And where it was at. So, you know, hopefully the legacy is that, you know, we grew thousands and thousands of members. We've raised the quality of wages and benefits, and you know, made sure that our members and their families were taken care of, and you know, that's hopefully the legacy we leave.
How about you as a leader? What do you want members to remember about your leadership in particular?
I hope that our members recognize, you know, once again, I'm not just sitting in the office. I want to get out on the job sites. I've proven that. I get over to the training center, interact with the members. I go to a lot of our local unions, different membership monthly meetings and activities. I just want them, hopefully they recognize those efforts and know that, you know, I'm there to fight shoulder to shoulder with them, and you know, that you know, we have open dialogue, and we can, once again, as long as we're all united, we can accomplish pretty much anything if we put ourselves up to it. So
we feature different trades each month on this podcast. If you're listening to other crafts episodes, what would you want to hear from them?
I think we mentioned one earlier of maybe getting back and talking about kind of the political and how that plays into our union business model, our industry, and advocating for, you know, our jobs clubs, right? You know, I think that would be a good subject maybe to hit on in the future.
Is there a project you worked on in your field days that you still drive past today and that you're proud of?
Anyone that I do. I think you remember, so primarily a lot of the work, at least with sewer and water work, is a lot of local street reconstruct. So, you know, there's certain jobs. I know I did a rehab off of East Main Street. So if I get downtown, I start thinking, you know, about, you know, some of the challenges of that job site. There's some building projects that we did the site utilities for. I know when I head down towards Chicago and I drive through Beloit, the big Staples warehouse, we did all the storm sewer and water for that when it was originally built. And I think our members all do the same, right? They take pride in the work that they do. They remember, you know, a lot of the nuances of a particular project when you drive by it. I'm sure my wife is probably heard it many times over the years where I pointed out this project or that project I've worked on and that we built. But yeah, still come across a few of them every once in a while.
Our final question. If your grandfather could see what the Wisconsin laborers look like today, 10,000 members, a 5,500 square foot training center that's about to begin a 20,000 square foot expansion project, hosting presidents, what do you think he'd say about all of it?
He would say he's proud. I know he would. He would always say that. And he would say, you know, never forget, you know, keep growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying. That was a saying he'd always have. And then he would say, never forget where you came from, and always remember who you're a voice for, your members and their families, and always remember that when you're, you know, having to make some challenging decisions in who you represent. So I'm sure he would say that.
Thank you for joining us and for educating us about the Wisconsin laborers. Where should listeners go? You talked about this earlier, but one more time, if they want to learn more about joining your union.
Yep. So go to our website, which is LIUNA, Wisconsin, all spelled out, .org. And everything is on our website. And if you're interested, go down to the membership application, fill out the application. You do it right online, hit send, and somebody will follow up with you.
Great. Thank you again so much, Kent.
Awesome. Thank you.